What is going on, Minties? The Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition. And today, I'm going to take an advanced look at the Iron Man, the Mask in the Iron Man Omnibus from Marvel Comics. So please stay tuned. Okay, before we get started, I'd like to say a thank you to David Gabriel and the folks at Marvel for sending us an advanced copy of the book. The book is scheduled to come out on December 4th at places like cheapgraphicnovels.com, and then everywhere else, like at Amazon and Barnes & Noble a few weeks later. And speaking of cheapgraphicnovels.com, this episode is sponsored by cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for brand new graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off the cover price. Cheap Graphic Novels prides itself on packaging your books so they arrive safely and in excellent condition, as well as prompt and helpful service. And check out their bargain bin for even greater deals up to 90% off cover price. And for you Minties, Cheap Graphic Novels is running a special promotion. If you're a first-time customer, let them know you were referred by Near Mint Condition at the checkout, and you'll receive a credit for free shipping on your next order. Now, this is only for U.S. customers. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discounts, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. So let's take a closer look at the book. Here is the cover by Joe Quesada, and the spine, the Iron Man, the Mask in the Iron Man. I play on words, of course. All the covers that are in this collection, and the contents of the book. The book does retail for $75. Now let's take a closer look at the book without the dust jacket. By the way, one of the things that I never really show, but I need to, just in case, inside the dust jacket, they kind of give you a blurb about the story here with reviews and what the story is about, and then a little bit of the creators and what else they have done. So now let's take a look at the book. Okay, so let's crack it open. I think that's a Paul Ryan image, if I'm not mistaken, because I know he drew some of this stuff here. The cover art, which is interesting that they put the cover art there. Actually, this whole thing is an interesting collection. I'll talk about that here in a second. But before I do, let's talk about the collection editors here. Mark Beasley, Caitlin O'Connell, Kateri Woody, and Jennifer Grunwald, Joe Hochstein, and I'm sure I'm butchering a lot of these names, but without these folks, we would not have this book in our hand. So speaking of this book follows up directly after the events of this particular omnibus here, and this is the Kurt Busiek and Sean Chen run. This is after the events of the Heroes Reborn and Heroes Return. As a matter of fact, Kurt Busiek was writing Avengers and Iron Man Heroes Return. So this takes place right afterwards, because that omnibus finishes off with issue 25 of that specific volume of Iron Man. So that's another thing too. So you got to keep remembering that they renumbered these when they came back. So when Heroes Return started, they renumbered it to another number 1. So that would be Iron Man Volume 3. So this is still Volume 3. But what this collects is Iron Man from the 1998 series from Heroes Return, the half issue, 26 through 49, and then annuals 2000 and 2001. Most of the stuff at the beginning, as a matter of fact, what the collection is named after, The Mask in the Iron Man, is a story by Joe Quesada. He scripted and wrote the story with artwork by Sean Chen. Sean Chen was also the artist on the Iron Man book when Busiek was writing it. But now Joe Quesada is writing the book. And I want to say, outside of his own creator's own stuff, this is his first taste at actually writing a comic book character that wasn't his. And the premise, because this isn't a spoiler or review of it, is pretty much the Iron Man outfit, the costume itself. His armor has become a sentient being, and it's kind of grown this love for Tony Stark. And there are some really weird moments in here. Now, we've seen a little bit of that before in, what's that graphic novel? Crash? The one, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but the one with the computer graphics, I think it was called Crash. We've seen that concept before, but I think this time around, I think it's pretty neat. And Sean Chen does add a lot of his dynamic style to it. Let's see. As a matter of fact, I think this is when, I want to say this is a fill-in artist right here. Aletha Martinez. Yes, she became the artist on Iron Man after Sean Chen left. This is just a fill-in issue with her, because Sean Chen is going to leave the book with this finale here. And then she becomes the Iron Man artist. So let's look there, make sure I don't flip to the ending of that book. Jocasta's still in the book. She was reintroduced in the pages of Kurt Busiek's Iron Man and Avengers. But yes, Aletha Martinez is now the ongoing artist. And Joe Quesada is now joined by a scripter, Frank Terry. So he is now scripting the stories for Joe Quesada. Joe Quesada is still writing it because Bob Harris is still editor-in-chief. But something's about to change here in a little bit. By the way, Mask in the Iron Man was previously collected in a trade paperback. This thing, I want to say this thing is, I think I got this like in 2002, 2003. The original stories came out like back in 2001. So that goes to say how long this book held up. I mean, it's an old trade paperback. You can tell by the paper quality. So, as I was saying, this is a pretty odd collection. Like, I didn't think Iron Man by Joe Quesada was one of those collections that I would ever see in omnibus format. Yeah, I get it. He's top dog at Marvel. But I didn't think that they would collect his run on Iron Man. Just because I don't hear a lot of demand for it, or I don't see a lot of people talking about it. He brought some interesting things to it. As a matter of fact, I think with this issue right here, the Maximum Security issue, I want to say that's his final issue because kind of out of nowhere, yeah, this is his final issue. He says his goodbye at the end of this issue, and then Frank Terry becomes the ongoing writer. This is a fill-in issue by Chuck Dixon and Paul Ryan. But yeah, after this, everything is Frank Terry because after that issue, 35, I want to say, yeah, Joe Quesada is now top dog at Marvel. He is editor-in-chief, so he doesn't have any time to write the books or supply covers. So Frank Terry is now still joined by Aletha Martinez to do his stories. And let's look a little more through here and then talk about some of the extras. Okay, so before I go further to the back, I did want to talk about this artist right here. This is Kieran Grant. He's the new penciler on Iron Man. Now, Aletha went on, I think she ended up doing Batgirl over at DC, and she's done things like Black Panther, World of Wakanda, so she's still around, which is awesome. This guy right here, who has like an anime Humberto Ramos, Trevor Scott, I'm not sure if y'all are familiar with his artwork over at DC on Batgirl. Kieran Grant, he went on to do Fantastic Four, he did the 4-issue miniseries of New Mutants, and then he did some issues of X-Men. But he has this Humberto Ramos anime-ish look to his artwork. And I thought that always stood out back then. It was also around the time when I think they started getting like Kiya Asemiya to do covers. Kiya Asemiya being a manga artist from Japan. Now this particular annual, 2001, is written by Chris Claremont, and he's joined by Matthew Ryan on pencils. But Frank Terry does get to wrap up his story. And I want to say the stuff after this, in between this and The Extremis by Warren Ellis, has not been collected in trade paperback. And that's the stuff written mainly by Mike Grell. And then there was another writer after him, and I cannot remember who that was. But Mike Grell took over the book as of issue 50, and none of that stuff after this, in between this and The Extremis, has been collected ever in any format, whether it's omnibus or trade paperback. I don't want to spoil who this villain is here. So let's just get to the end. Actually, the final issue is the Nuff Said issue. I thought that was pretty interesting. And Nuff Said is where there is no script. It's just the pictures that do the story. As far as the extras, we have the penciled cover here from the Iron Man half issue, Iron Man 26. Pencils and then finished artwork. Gorgeous pencils by Joe Quesada. And then inks right here by Tim Townsend. And then Richard Eisenoff did the colors. I love this behind-the-scenes stuff. Pencils by Quesada. And then some more covers here. Internal artwork, original page art. And then the Nuff Said script back here. Now let's look at the binding. You might have been able to tell, but it is sewn binding, just like 99% of these omnibuses. Here's the late Mike Wieringo's art, so he's also joined in this by Adam Polina and John Romita Sr. And let's see, there's the eye we're looking for. So The book is 686 pages, and the binding does its job correctly. And that was the contents of the book. Let me know in the comments down below if you're picking this up, if you're an Iron Man completist, if you're just gonna... or if you're passing up on it. If Iron Man is one of your favorite characters and you just have to have every single Iron Man release, or if you just collect all the omnibuses. Again, this was the Uncanny Omar. Please don't forget to hit that like, subscribe button, and remember, if it's classy and cool, it must be near mint.